Ambassador Nkrumah, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you here too.
On Sunday, we celebrated 21 years of peace in Liberia, and ECOWAS played a central role in bringing peace to Liberia. How do you assess your role in terms of bringing peace and stability to Liberia?
Wow. Well, thank you very much for the question. And firstly, let me commend the people of Liberia for 21 years of uninterrupted and enduring peace. For a post-conflict nation, I think we've come a long way. And as you said, ECOWAS played a central role in this process. Assessing the role of ECOWAS beyond, how you encapsulate it as central has been one that tested the role of ECOWAS as a regional bloc. And thankfully, a role that at the end of it showed that ECOWAS had the capacity to ensure that we build peace, not only within Liberia as a conflict state at the time, but also in containing, preventing, and setting out mechanisms for preventing and managing conflict within the sub-region.
And I just want you to be a little more descriptive with that process, because over 40% of people live in Liberia are under 25. They didn't live through the war, never had any of those experiences. So how difficult was it for ECOWAS to broker peace for Liberia?
I think like any conflict, brokering peace is not an easy thing. And one must understand that when conflict arises, it is not always from immediate causes, but there are things that have built up over time, and these things culminate in a full blown out conflict. If you ask me to provide, to be more descriptive about it, I would perhaps ask that we all do a little more reading about the role of ECOMOG, for instance, how ECOMOG first docked using maritime vessels in the ports of Liberia, how soldiers were welcomed by citizens of Liberia and seen as the beacon of hope. Because I understand that when war broke out at the time, international partners who people had the expectation would quickly rise to Liberia's aid were not, forthcoming in that regard. And it took ECOWAS's own interventions for people to begin to appreciate that the regional body was there to ensure that it contained the conflict as it was arising. They minimized the loss of lives and property, and actually helped the good people of Liberia to be safe, to seek refuge through repatriation to other parts of West Africa.
Another thing, ECOMOG has a really beautiful story. I mean, the contribution to Liberia is well documented, as you've already outlined. But another thing that a lot of Liberians do not forget is September 9, when a lot of people have accused ECOMOG consistently that the monitoring group failed to protect President Samuel Doe when he visited General Kwano. I mean, that's a whole story around that. But what would be your immediate response to that?
My immediate response to that would be, you do not necessarily always anticipate events to unfold the way that they do. The important thing to note was that ECOWAS was acting in good faith, and the essence of the actions that they took at the time was to mitigate this escalation of conflict and reduce its impacts on people and citizens of Liberia, reduce casualties of those conflicts. And so those decisions were taken strategically, or those actions were taken strategically towards making peace. Nothing beyond that. But like I said, in conflict, people can act erratically, People can quickly assess situations at the moment in time and take actions that one could not have anticipated on hindsight. And I think that really is what led to the misconception about the role of ECOWAS. But overall, I believe that if ECOMOG did not have the goodwill to even be present and to try and broker peace in Liberia, it wouldn't at all have been present here in Liberia.
The Liberian Civil War, it was a really difficult situation for ECOMOG and ECOWAS. So how has the experience with the Liberian Civil War, has it helped ECOWAS improve its dealings in terms of handling conflicts in other regions?
I think Liberia's civil war and the role of ECOWAS really provided lessons for and experiences for ECOWAS to begin to understand its role in terms of conflict prevention and conflict management. And through the work that ECOWAS undertook through ECOMOG and subsequent missions that came in and out of Liberia, the many meetings that were held, the many peace deals that were brokered, actually exposed the root causes of conflict and provided ECOWAS an insight into how we take steps to mitigate the risks associated with conflict.
Democracy is on attack in Africa and West Africa particularly. We saw the incursion of democracy in Mali, Niger, Gabon, which is outside the region. So the threat to democracy is actually real. What are some steps ECOWAS is taking beyond reactive? What are some proactive steps ECOWAS is taking to preserve peace and democracy here in Liberia?
When you look at the root causes of why people go into violent extremism or terrorism, you see a lot of them is around the youth. Most of them are unemployed because they don't believe in the systems of governance. They don't have the facilities for health, for good education, and all of these things contribute and makes these people vulnerable to the external threat. So improving systems of governance is critical also from insulating us against the threat of violent extremism. And so in this regard, ECOWAS's work internally with the member states is how we complement national efforts to enhance governance within the country.
Now let's talk about the War Crimes Code. The War Economic Crime Code, the resolution has been passed by the legislature, has been approved by the president. But one of the problems we have in Liberia is the politics is factional, out of tribe or party, and that might stand in the way of implementing the code or the resolution. So what is ECOWAS? What are you currently doing, and what do you hope to do to ensure that people who committed war and economic crimes in Liberia are held to account?
Well, I think when it comes to the War and Economic Crimes Court and what Liberia's commitment is to providing justice for victims that suffered under the war, and also ensuring the perpetrators of war are held accountable for their acts, is primarily a sovereign venture. And we await further engagement with the government of Liberia when it comes to the War and Economic Crimes Code.
So we talk about the War and Economic Crimes Code, and you explicitly said it's an internal matter. ECOWAS is going to observe and provide support, but essentially it's an internal matter, and it's one issue I want to follow up on, because internal matters usually lead to problems for everyone. I mean, we've seen it in Burkina Faso and Niger. So the issues of bad governance, the issues of corruption, and all these vices of democracy. Is it not a part of your charter to engage these in a more active way?
Yes, of course. It's all part of it. And like I said, it's an ongoing venture. We cannot, as any society, say we have achieved optimum. Society evolves. So knowing that the issues of governance that you're talking, and we've spoken about the vices and some of the interventions or mechanisms and protocols that ECOWAS uses to support good governance, it will not end. There's no point in time where ECOWAS will say, oh, everything is done and dusted and all is well. It doesn't matter how much comes in from ECOWAS or other international partners. Really and truly, at the end of the day, Liberia's transformative agenda depends on each and every Liberian. The kind of civic values that we inculcate in ourselves and how we are alive to those truths of what makes us a people that wants to succeed.
So finally, we live in a peaceful country now. We've had three successive elections, and Liberians have moved away from the war. We're now focused on nation building.
Yes.
What is ECOWAS' big vision for Liberia in terms of maintaining peace and democracy in Liberia?
I think the peace and stability of every single member state impacts on the success of ECOWAS as a country, as a regional bloc. In order for us to drive forward the agenda of ECOWAS as an ECOWAS of the people, where peace and prosperity is felt by every community citizen, it behoves member states cooperating with ECOWAS to achieve that agenda. And so ECOWAS's big vision is peace and prosperity. So anything that enhances peace, anything that assures us of economic prosperity are the values and the interventions that we make in each member state.